Last week, I finished the pond, lined it, and filled it full of water. Well, in the interim period, I've clad it with stone. These stones are partly left over from the making of the larger pond, and partly I've scavenged everywhere in the garden. These are the last possible stones that I could find. The wall is deliberately jumbled because I want as many nooks and crannies for animals to get in as possible. Next step is to plant it. Now, the key thing to remember about planting a wildlife pond is get native plants. They don't have to be exclusively native, but you must have some native plants because insects and animals have evolved to work with them. What you really want is greenery. Greenery around the margins and greenery under the water. And to start with, I've got caltha, the marsh marigold. I've actually got a really good example in the pond on the other side of the garden that's flowering well now and has got established. And these are great because they provide pollen for insects early in the year. They flower in March and April. So you're starting to get the insects in. They also have good foliage that when it grows provides cover. But I'm going to repot them into aquatic baskets. In fact, all these plants will go in aquatic baskets. And you can see it's got a fine mesh that lets the roots out, but also the water in. You can see that the caltha, as you buy it, that is not in a normal compost. That's very low nutrients and quite loamy, i.e. earthy compost with sand in it. And it's really important you don't use a normal potting compost because that will raise the nutrient level in the water too much. It wants to be very, very low nutrients. And all these plants have adapted to thrive in it. And you can buy aquatic compost. You can see that this is effectively sandy mud. So I'm going to put a little bit of that in the bottom. This can be planted into it. And then so that is now potted up. When I put it in the water is going to pour in and keep it permanently wet. And we can pop this over here. I'm putting it over here because it's in full sun, so it will flower better. The pot is submerged, so we can't see it. And that is there like that. The crucial thing when you're planting a wildlife pond is to have plants around the edge of the pond and also around the edge at the back to provide cover. Now, this is water forget-me-not, Myosotis palustris. And it does two things really well. Because it spreads, it provides cover, very low cover, just above and below the water. And also, it is absolutely ideal for tadpoles. The frogs come in, lay their spawn in amongst its shelter. Now, this wants to go in a very shallow area. Now, you can see that that is submerged, but it will very quickly go up above the water level. Now, I know that most people making a pond feel that they must have oxygenators. And somehow, if they don't, the balance of the pond won't work. Wildlife ponds are self-regulating when it comes to oxygen. And all the creatures that live in them have adapted to the levels of oxygen that they have. However, there are submerged plants like this is hornwort, that you can add and it will provide extra oxygen. And one of the virtues of that is it will cut the rate of algal growth. And they will use up extra nutrients and keep the water slightly clearer. But if I take that out, this has come in a net bag. So I'm going to take it out the bag. And you can see that there is a little lead clip there that will hold it together. And when you plant it, nothing could be easier. You simply chuck it in the water. Job done. Believe you me, if you set up the right conditions, the wildlife will come, and astonishingly quickly. That's one of the great joys of a wildlife pond. Get the right plants, get the right shape, and the right conditions, and sit back and watch them arrive. Now, this is an iris, yellow flag. It's native, it's common, it grows very strongly, but really good in a wildlife pond because it has a distinct function. It's ideal for dragonflies. The larvae come out of the water and they come out these very upright, quite rigid leaves, and they dry themselves out. So just a few around the edge of a pond are absolutely perfect. If you have too many, they can become a bit invasive, but don't be put off. They're really a good plant to have in a pond. All irises, I think, are beautiful, from the tiniest little reticulata to the biggest bearded iris. But aquatic irises are a distinct group.